Hey everyone, welcome. It's Melanie Benson Strick, host of New Era Success TV and America's leading authority on optimum performance. I've got with me today my really wonderful dear friend Jim Palmer, the newsletter guru.
Hey Melanie.
Hey, welcome. Oh, you're calling in, or I guess you're not really calling in. We're connecting all the way from Pennsylvania,
Philadelphia. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. This is like when my geography gets a little sketchy.
You know, a mutual friend of ours says I live in Steel Mill Town. It's the other side of the state. I'm the Liberty Bell side of the state.
Yeah, pretty much. I got everything down between Mexico, California, Arizona, Nevada. I got that down. You get on the other side of that, and I'm like, okay, I think that's out east, Liberty Bell. Yeah. Recently, Jim put together this amazing project, and something really amazing, tremendous, extraordinary has been coming out of it, and that is Jim is the co-author of a book called It's Okay to Be Scared, Never Give Up, and I feel very proud to be one of the contributors to this book. And Jim, why don't you tell us really quick what the book is about and how the book came to be, and I will share a little bit about what has been so impactful with the stories in this book.
The book has been just unbelievably moving to a lot of people, Melanie. You know, Martin Howie, the co-author, is a mutual great friend of ours. So Martin, went through a very serious bout with cancer. I'm a cancer survivor myself. And on December 2nd, it was a Thursday, we were out in LA at an event. And we were talking. I said, Martin, you got to get your book out. You got to share your story. And he said, you write the book. You were a survivor. You went through a lot of stuff. And I said, why don't we just write the book together? But both of us were kind of busy. And I said, all right, we'll write the book together, but we got to get it done massive action style. And I said, 60 days from that, literally that morning, that Thursday morning, December 2nd. Well, in fairness, Melanie, it was about 62 days, and the book was done, 240-page book. And basically, the kind of our thought process was we felt like, because we both travel a lot, go to different seminars, and there seems to be kind of a little bit of a gloomy mood, a blue mood around the country, certainly with some entrepreneurs. There's always people doing really well, and there's always people that are just kind of, it's got a little bit of a haze there. And I think it's been that way for a good 2 to 3 years. And we said, we want to produce a book, a business book that's got a different message, one of hope and inspiration, but also make sure it also has some good business nuggets, some wisdom, marketing tips, things like that. So we thought between our two stories, we were also going to interview 9 highly successful entrepreneurs like yourself, and they were going to share, each of them, through a 30-minute interview. Everybody's going to get 30 minutes, and we're going to ask everybody the same 3 questions. What's the biggest challenge you've ever faced, either in your life or your business? How did you get through it? And then share a nugget, something that can help entrepreneurs and small business owners kind of make this their best year ever. And it was, first of all, from the very first interview to the last, it was like total validation all along the way. It was very exciting, and so that was kind of the genesis of the book.
Yeah, and you have some really amazing stories in there. People like Joe Polish, James Malinchak, Anna Urbanski, myself, Stephanie Frank. Who am I missing? Oh, Mike Koenigs.
Mike Koenigs, yep. Joel Bauer, Susie Miller, Renee.
Ira.
Ira. And, the thing is, if you look at all of these people, and some are more well-known than others, but you would look at some of them and say, wow, they've really got their life and their business together. But when you hear some of the stories that they revealed, and I know several of the people really well, and I had no idea some of the struggles they had early in their business. And so that was what I was talking about when I said, when we're hearing these stories, if anybody's like struggling right now, it's going to really, I think, give them some hope and inspiration, because it also has a way of giving perspective to what you're going through. Not to kind of put a yardstick per se on whatever anybody's struggling with, because they're your own personal struggles. But sometimes when you're going through some stuff, and you see what other people are going through, it kind of really maybe focuses you a little bit and gives you some perspective on what you're going through.
Yeah, I think perspective, knowing that you're not alone, knowing that other people have challenges, and sometimes even like, how did someone overcome challenge? I shared about my very, very frustrating financial debacle and some of my, all the things that happened around that. I know other people talked about losing everything and starting over. I know both you and Jim have had cancer scares. And I'm sorry, you and Jim, you and Martin have both had cancer scares that you had to face some of the most difficult times. And, what I love about this is that sometimes when we share our stories and we just have a conversation about what's real and about what somebody's going through in that moment, it gives somebody else the courage to take another step towards the future that they want, to not give up on their dream, or to not give up just because stuff is falling apart and it feels like their world is melting all around them. So it's such an extraordinary book. And there's a couple of I haven't got through all the stories yet, but a couple of my favorites I love, besides my own story, that is.
Which is awesome.
Of course.
But really, if you can hold that thought 1 second, because, Melanie, one of the common threads, I think, through maybe at least half the stories were of a financial nature. And, most entrepreneurs, I think, end up bootstrapping it from the time they start up until hopefully they get some momentum and some traction. And I know that because I know you've actually been doing some research and helping people through this, financial matters are one of the things that really grind people down. It makes them worry. They worry about money. They worry about debt. Everybody accumulates debt when you get started. And that actually, I forget the exact name of the book. What is it? 3 Feet from Gold, I think, something like that. Like, you never know how close you are to success. And so when you realize, yes, this guy, man, he had $100,000 credit card debt, and this person lost $200,000, whatever it is, you kind of look at your own story and go, okay, I just have to keep going until you hit momentum and inertia. And so that's really what we wanted to do, is just keep going.
Yeah, I know
in your quest.
A few people have commented that me being so vulnerable and raw about my story was really helpful for them. And interestingly enough, as a little bit of a side note, having become more open about what I went through has given a lot of people the courage to come to me and ask for help to turn their finances around. I even created a mentoring program called the Money DNA. It's a transformational coaching process, because I learned that what I learned how to do with my own psychology and my habits around money, a lot of people were struggling with. So having someone else share, look, this is what I went through, oftentimes is a great way to be able to give back and help people. But I was also going to talk a little bit about Adam's story. Adam Urbanski talks a lot about a similar financial situation that we went through. And there's a passage in here where he talks about a very specific strategy he was taught to instantly bring a cash boost into his business. And as a matter of fact, he's taught this to me in the past. We've been friends for many years. And so little nuggets like that, to me, were godsends for me when I was at the lowest of the lowest of the low, and needing somebody to say, look, I can't afford $5,000, $10,000, even like $500 to have someone mentor me right now.
You're right. And not only is Adam's story really wonderful from the perspective of it was like a rags to rags and then riches again.
Yeah.
Because both you and Adam got so vulnerable about being real. Like, yeah, I went through this. Adam kind of didn't handle his money correctly, and he stopped doing some of the things that made him successful. Once he got successful and found himself in a really not a good situation, but for him to share that and for you to share your story, I think it was Adam in the book who said sharing is caring. So when you share your story with others, it shows that you care. And, I always believe the more you give, the more you get back. So your story there about sharing and actually getting, clients and developing a program out of that is proof positive of that.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things is the impact that we're having by each of us giving our time, and you and Martin putting so much time and energy into getting people's stories out there. We're also, well, I shouldn't say we, but the book is saving lives. And it's a really important thing to know that money is only one small piece of health and well-being. And oftentimes people are so focused on making the money that they're not paying attention to their well-being. So maybe you could share a little bit about some stories that you've heard from people who've got the book and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to do some things differently, and what that's been like.
Well, the timing for this interview was awesome because about 4 days ago, Martin and I were on the phone and we were discussing how the book was selling and different marketing strategies. Both of us said we're not really, our goal is not to have this bestseller and, just riches and all that. We really wanted to share the message, first of all, of the importance of early detection, but also the message of hope and inspiration, right? So that was really our motivating goal. But then, as a businessman, we started getting, okay, we've only sold this many. We immediately started shifting off our original goal a little bit in the conversation. The very next morning, Melanie, Saturday morning, I got a message from someone, and I could pretty much just tell you out of my head, said, Jim, I wanted to share with you that my husband read your book. She ordered it and read it and then gave it to him. And he read the book, and he had been dealing with some shortness of breath and some minor chest pains now and again. But Martin's expression is, "Oh, I'm okay. Let's just go to lunch." Very much like myself, we just kind of ignore it like it's nothing. Well, reading the book caused this gentleman on Thursday to go to the doctor and got checked out. The doctor says, "Thank God you're here. You're a stroke waiting to happen." So they ran all these tests. He was in the hospital for a couple of days. He's home now. I was actually going back and forth with this woman, and he's on medication. And she told me, which almost brought me to tears, quite honestly, said, "Jim, if it wasn't for your book, I would have buried my husband before his 45th birthday."
Oh, my God.
And I was like, Melanie, I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. I was just like, wow. I was like, I immediately sent a message off to Martin. I shared that with him. I said, if we never sell one more book, our job is done. It is because we know it's touched other people, other entrepreneurs, but for her to say that was just, it was just, I feel like I'm riding high a little bit. It's kind of, when you hear something like that, very moving.
Well, for me, it reminds me, because as business owners and entrepreneurs, we can get so driven on how do we make more money? How do we get more done? How do we, do more, be more, have more? And that's not really what life is all about. Life is about the real connections and the difference that we make every day. And I know we all know that, but we forget to slow down and really do that. And I truly believe that this book, It's Okay to Be Scared, but Never Give Up, is a way for you and for Martin and for all of us who've shared our stories to slow down and remind people what life is supposed to be about, and to give them some clues to how to reconnect before it's too late, before we miss the real gem of life. So every moment that we take to give from our heart and from a real space of wanting to make a difference is an opportunity for us to help someone else. At least that's my belief.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing, and I know you know this, we always need to be reminded almost every day. You and I chat frequently, and it's like, don't forget. And it's like, Jim, don't forget to take more time off. We need to be constantly reminded of where we are. And I really, not only was that a blessing to get that message, but it was a reminder, because here we are. My mind started drifting toward selling more books, which in a way is to get the message out. But I think it was a course correction for my mindset. It's not about the money. It's about getting the message out.
Right. You've had a lot of stories that are coming in from people. I remember one specifically. You've probably gotten a few of them, but I remember one specifically from someone who had been really low. They're feeling some real big challenges in their life, and some of the stories help them feel like they should get back up and go again. I know somebody that read through the book that I shared with, they were like, oh my gosh, like this is something that has given me the hope and inspiration that I needed to keep going forward, even though I'm feeling frustrated because I'm pretty broke right now. Mm-hmm. So any other stories that you want to share that have been really kind of touching to hear from people? There was
a gentleman, probably similar to what you just said. He's a consultant, and it's been a tough few years for being a consultant. It's been a tough few years for anybody selling products or services. It's just not boom times that we're living in right now for entrepreneurs. And similar to what we talked about, he actually shared with me that he's racked up considerable debt in the last couple of years. And he actually mentioned your story. He mentioned Adam's story, but he also mentioned another story in the book. And I think the story I'm referring to is Susie Miller's story. And, Susie Miller starts sharing her story. She was sitting in church one day, and the pastor was talking about, the struggles that we go through in our lives. And the pastor said, sometimes families have to deal with the loss of a child, a house fire, cancer. Anyway, he goes on to name like 7 or 8 different things. And Susie's teenage daughter tugs her on the arm and says, "Mom, you've had seven of those 8 challenges." And this gentleman said, no matter what I'm going through, credit card debt, I'm having a hard time getting new clients and things like that. It's nothing compared to what somebody like Susie went through. And here she is motoring forward and pushing forward. So, the stories like that, again, just of hope and inspiration are just, it's so much better than selling thousands of books. It really is.
So, somebody is faced right now with some pretty challenging times. Maybe their financial life is falling apart. Maybe they're dealing with a death or someone's illness. Maybe they're having, they've been divorced, left, and they're feeling really down. Like, what is one thing that you could say to someone to give them that hope and inspiration before they get your book in their hands? Because I'm sure they're going to want to go grab that, and we'll tell you where you can get a copy in a minute.
Melanie, I said it earlier, sharing is caring. And I remember that my brother-in-law, it's going back a few years now, but, way long ago, good English, Jim, but about 10 years ago, before I started my business, I had been unemployed like 14 to 15 months. And about 3 years ago, my brother was unemployed, and he called me and said, "What lessons did you learn?" And one of the lessons that I immediately said was, tell everybody, go talk to people. Talk to your neighbors, your friends, old people that you used to work with. Go talk to people in your church, in your community, your neighborhood, your gym. Get the message out, because one of the things that I learned early on was that I had a little bit of shame, okay? And so I didn't tell a lot of people. I told, obviously, my family, and then a month or 2 goes by and nothing's happening, so I start telling more people. And then 6 months later, I'm starting to call up friends from, 6, 10 years ago. But what I said to him is, start now with where you think you need to be a year from now if you're still out of work, and spread the word. So I guess I would turn that lesson around on somebody who's struggling to go talk with people, go to networking groups, especially networking groups that where people of a like mind would hang out. So entrepreneurial groups, whether it's being a local chamber of commerce or, go to different events. Maybe there's some events in your hometown, so you don't have to travel, but, really talk to people that are not just competitors, but people that are operating a small business, if that's what your struggle is. Because again, I think perspective is a really, really great thing. And early on in my business, I too was dealing with some major debt because, again, I started my business after being unemployed for 15 months. And my whole first year, I affectionately now refer to as revenue free. My whole first 12 months in business.
Your revenue-free business.
Yeah, revenue-free. I have a job, but I just have no money. So it took me a year to figure that out. And reading these stories and, I started reading a lot. If you can't be connected with groups, I started reading a lot. I remember reading stories. I think Joe Polish was one, and there was other folks. Money again is a big thing. How do you just hang on until your idea catches fire? But I guess my very long-winded answer to your question is really talk to people and get connected with others. The worst thing you can do is be in your office all by yourself. Yes.
Isolating.
we spend a lot of time in our offices and isolated, and so go have lunch with a friend or do something, but don't just be sitting there. And I guess one of the things, since money is kind of a thread going through this interview, is don't be emotional about money. Money's a tool. Money's important. You need it to live, but don't be emotionally tied for money. Recognize it for what it is. That's not a yardstick about, your self-worth or anything like that. Yes, we need to generate sales and things like that, but try not to be emotionally attached to money. And the other thing I'd say, the other thing I'll say, Melanie, real quick, it just popped in my head for some reason, so I'll share, is I know why, because I was actually coaching one of my clients today, and I said, you can't save your way out of debt. So we were talking about, well, could you go back to your landlord and renegotiate rent? Could you do this? And all those things aren't going to equal into very much when you talk about the kind of debt this person has. And I said, you need to grow your way out of debt. You cannot save your way out of debt. So whatever savings you have or whatever you can muster, you've got to market very smartly and aggressively, but you've got to grow sales. When you start booming sales, the debt will actually go away. So that's the other thing, is you can't save your way out of debt. You have to grow your way out of debt.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, one of the things that I learned that really shifted things for me was all those things, and I learned to just give. When I felt like the sales were slow or things were blocked for some way that I couldn't see through it, I would just give, and I would focus on doing something just to get my passion and my gift activated again. So I would, maybe scholarship somebody into something, or I would do some volunteer work, or I would write a check to a charity that from the little bit that I did have. Just that act of giving and being in the power and the energy of my genius work, even if it didn't mean money in that moment, changed everything. So that's one last thing that we'll share with you. So Jim, where could somebody get their very own copy of, and you can see my book is all marked up here, It's Okay to Be Scared But Never Give Up?
Well, you can get it at itsokaytobescared.com, and there's we put together a whole bunch of really great bonuses, so you get instant download if you buy it there from our website. It's also available at Amazon, and if you prefer Kindle, you can get that at Amazon also. You'll still get the bonuses. The back page of the book lists the URL where you can get those, but if you want to get everything super quick and immediate, you can get it at itsokaytobescared.com.
Perfect, and that's It's OKAY. Okay, it's okay to be scared.com instead of the okay like many of us Americans are.
Right, and don't put the apostrophe in ITS. Just, it's okay to be scared.
The URL is showing right here, so you can grab it there. And it's $14.95. It's a great gift to give to somebody who's maybe having a hard time, or pick up a box of books to give to your team, or maybe to an organization, or if you have gifts that you give to someone. If we do nothing else, we're going to spark hope and inspiration for someone who's feeling challenged with their life right now, or maybe even better, we're going to save a life, and you can be part of that with us. So Jim, thank you so much for coming and joining me today on the New Era Success TV.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes, real quick.
This is one of those off the top of your head moments. I just did an offer to the folks that are my clients, a coupon. I'd like to extend it to everybody that's watching New Era Success TV. If you go to itsokaytobescared.com, this won't work on Amazon, but if you go to itsokaytobescared.com and enter the coupon code SCARED, all right, SCARED, and just hit apply, it'll take $5 off the price of the book.
Oh, nice.
So that is it's an offer, but it's also for me to reprimand me for being focused on money a few days ago. That'll help me get the message out to the bigger